Why is one Pac-12 coach acting like Colorado leaving isn't a big deal? Are we just pretending, or does he actually not care? I'm going to talk about that on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borman. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about why Dan Lanning is taking shots at Colorado leaving. Does he really care, or is he just trying to maybe uplift the Pac-12 a little bit? We're going to be talking about who Colorado's potential Big 12 rival could be, and then why Coach Prime is must-watch in 2023. Before we do, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Your team every single day right here on YouTube or wherever you get them. Okay, if you guys missed it, Oregon's head coach, Dan Lanning, was asked about Colorado leaving for the Big 12. If you missed that, newsflash, Colorado is going to the Big 12 in 2024. They will join USC and UCLA as the three teams that will be leaving the conference, with the other two going to the Big 10. And so now they are going back to the Big 12, which was actually the conference they left for the Pac-12, and now they're going back. I don't know if it's going back to an X, if we count that, because usually it's a bad thing. But in this case, it's making Colorado more money as of right now. And so it seems like a good move. But not everybody cares about the move. Dan Lanning, the Oregon head coach, was asked for his reaction about Colorado leaving, because realistically, this kind of puts the rest of the Pac-12 in a flux. I wrote about it over on my All Cardinal site, which is where I cover Stanford. I think, which I'll just go over this right now, because I think this is important for context. And I think it's important to kind of be aware of which schools comments actually mean something from, because not every school talking means the same. So the way I see it, and I'm sure the way a lot of people see it, is there's three different categories of Pac-12 schools remaining, the Pac-9, if you will. This is all and according to the deal, which we learned will be heavily reliant on Apple. It's make or break, which means they need this deal to go through. Otherwise, their program could be in jeopardy. Their Power 5 status will surely be in jeopardy. Somewhere in the middle, these are programs that could have options, but you never really know how things will swing out. And then these are the we have options programs. So the make or break programs, Oregon State, Washington State. Not a single scenario in a realignment, expansion, whatever you want to call it, has included either of them. I think there was like a little blurb of people from the Big 12 thinking that Oregon State was going to go there, but Oregon State and Washington State have consistently been left out of every discussion. Everybody I talk to that knows what's going on, they're just not the programs that they don't have the market, and they don't have really the notoriety that these conferences are looking for, and so they'd be left out and probably have to drop down to the Mountain West, or hopefully, and this is the extreme case, maybe not hopefully they don't have to do this. This is the extreme case, though. It could put their athletic departments in jeopardy, because obviously when you go from making dozens of tens of millions of dollars to, for example, the American Conference, they only make like $7 million per year. It's hard to run in a program like that. And so those two programs they need this deal to go through, and they need it to be good. These are the schools in the middle: Cal, Stanford, Utah, and Arizona State. 2/4 of the four corner schools in Utah and Arizona State. We learned that there's three schools that are kind of pledging to stick together. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for the Pac-12, we'll find out. Cal and Stanford, they've been viewed as Big Ten teams, but the Big Ten doesn't want to add anybody right now. So I think they could both, at least Stanford for sure, could hold up as an independent. Don't know about Cal. But they have Big Ten options. I think maybe realistically, if I was the Big Ten, I would want to have like a West Coast edition, so that way USC and UCLA don't have to fly all the way to Rutgers and then fly back to Nebraska for back-to-back road games, because it's going to be a tough trek. But it's going to be interesting to see what those middle tier teams what happens to them. Excuse me. Obviously, Utah and Arizona State are kind of Big 12 ties, but there's room for one more, and that school's supposed to be Arizona, or allegedly. Then these are the schools that have options: Oregon, Washington, and Arizona. I think if Oregon and Washington told the Big 12 that, hey, we want to join and we won't leave, I think the Big 12 would be like, yes, please. Those would be the two biggest brands in the conference. And then Arizona is obviously kind of the next brand up, or the next school up, excuse me, in terms of who's going to follow Colorado into the Big 12. So all of this to go back to why this statement coming from Dan Lanning. I don't know how much it means. I think it's interesting because I think Oregon really wants to. I think they want to make it work in the Pac-12. I think they like having a route to the playoff that's easier than having to go to a conference like the Big 12, where it's going to be very intense and very competitive nonstop. And so, when asked about Colorado leaving, he said, "Not a big reaction." The question was, "What's your reaction to Colorado leaving?" Not a big reaction. I'm trying to remember what they won to affect this conference when they were a part of it. I don't remember. And then that's how he kind of ended his press conference, which honestly, he's not wrong, but I think he knows what he's doing. And let me add on to why he's not wrong. Okay, realistically, Colorado was not a fit in the Pac-12. I don't know what it was. It was when Adam came on the show from 24/7. He explained that there was just too much instability at coaching. There was just never really got going, and it was a repeating cycle of this coach is here for a couple years, struggles, leaves. This coach is here for a couple years, struggles, leaves. Mel Tucker, Midnight Mel, comes, finds some success, leaves. And Carl Durrell struggles, fired, obviously. And so now they bring in Coach Prime, who is a trendsetter, a trend breaker, which is more important for this program because they need these trends to be broken. But since joining in 2011, they've had 2 seasons above a 500 record. Colorado has. One of them being the COVID season. They had just one Pac-12 title appearance in 2016, and they lost 41-10 to Washington. So I think Dan Lanning and Oregon are, which we don't know what they're doing. We know that they've been kind of back channeling with the Big Ten, that they want to go to the Big Ten. And I'm sure if the Big Ten invited them today, they'd leave. Who wouldn't? But I think he's trying to put on a brave face for the conference. And I think he's trying to show that just in case Oregon does stay in the Pac-12, that Colorado leaving, it's not going to be as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, which I get what he's saying. On the field, they haven't done anything. But market-wise, you're losing a big market. Now you're going to lose Dion, Coach Prime Sanders, which is not ideal. Obviously, coaches aren't nobody watches a game to watch a coach, but people will watch a game to watch a Lincoln or a Coach Prime coach team, if you know what I mean. There's only, I think, Nick Saban, probably Lincoln Riley, and maybe Kirby Smart. I would say there's 3 coaches in college football where it's like, that coach is so good, I just want to watch his teams. I don't care where he's coaching. Coach Prime is one of those coaches, and I think losing him is a big blow to the Pac-12, and obviously it's a big gain for the Big 12 because now they have a reason for fans to tune into every single Colorado game, and it kind of brings more attention to their other programs. But yeah, Dan Lanning saying this, I think he's putting on a brave face for the Pac-12. I think he knows that it's a big loss, but I also think he knows that Oregon might have options elsewhere. So to him, he could say whatever he wants. Either way, looking forward to that early season matchup between Colorado and Oregon. Colorado has a chance to do the funniest thing ever and beat Dan Lanning and Oregon, which would effectively end their playoff hopes and probably their Pac-12 title hopes as well. By the time I think it's October is rolling around, so looking forward to that matchup. What else I'm looking forward to is letting you know that this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Let me get my little, there we go. These days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Believe it or not, I got my very first job from LinkedIn Jobs. Was able to look for roles right during school, was able to connect with people, ended up getting hired at the Pac-12 Networks as a production assistant. And that was one of the best moves of my young career because it helped me meet so many people. So if you want to do the same and find the perfect candidate like myself or someone else, then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you could quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, we're back. We just talked about why Dan Lanning is pretending like he doesn't care. Realistically, Colorado didn't accomplish much, but I think he's trying to put on a brave face for the Pac-12. That looks to kind of be in a major flux in terms of what their deal could be. Either way, it is what it is. Um, Now we're talking about who Colorado's Big 12 rival is. And I'm probably going to have another Big 12 host come on later of the week to talk about this because I think we need their perspective. But Colorado never really felt like they had a rival in the Pac-12. I think some might say it was Oregon, but obviously Oregon's got a rivalry with Oregon State and Washington, and so at best, Colorado's their third best rival. Don't think so. Realistically, you have to be able to look at a team and be like, "That's our rival right there. We both hate each other. We both want to beat each other really bad." Like Texas and Oklahoma. Obviously, there's not many rivalries like that out there. Tennessee, Georgia. Uh, Alabama and LSU or Alabama Auburn, excuse me. Uh, I don't know if Colorado has a rival like that, but I'm sure they have a rival where it's like every time we play this team, there's animosity. So I'm going to break down every Colorado's record versus every Big 12 team that's still in the conference. And we're going to talk about who their possible rival could be. So up first, Baylor. Colorado's 9-7 all time versus Baylor. Don't really see the rivalry appeal there. I think that Texas Colorado thing could be a thing, but don't really know if these teams have enough animosity between the two. Iowa State, Colorado's 49-15-1 all time against Iowa State. They have Iowa, so I don't really feel like that's a room for Colorado. Kansas, Colorado's 42-25-3 against the Jayhawks. They have Kansas State, who obviously is the next team, and Colorado's 45-20-1 against them. Oklahoma is no longer in the league. Oklahoma State, 26-20-1. Interesting. I'm going to circle back to that one. Hint, hint. TCU, 0-1. This past year was the first time they played. And then you got Texas Tech, 5-5. West Virginia, 1-1. And then the list I'm looking at doesn't have the newer teams, but I don't think any of those new teams would be the rival. There's two teams that stand out as potential rivals to me in the Big 12 right now. I would say TCU, just because of recent memory. It's a fresh rivalry. They just played them last year. They lost. They're going to play them again this year. Week 1, big noon kickoff in Dallas. That's going to be a huge game. A lot of people are going to be watching that game. I think that game has potential rivalry vibes, I guess, because when you think of TCU, who's their rival? I think a lot of people would say SMU because of proximity, but that's not a rivalry I'm tuning into. I'm not like, oh my gosh, it's week 7, TCU's playing SMU. That's not happening. Colorado versus TCU has become a fresh, newer. It feels like they've been playing every year for the past decade, and they've played one time. And I think Colorado wants to get theirs back. They want to get their get back. And TCU obviously wants to continue to build on what was a great season this past year. And let's just say, I think there's a lot of potential there. Oklahoma State. Now, hear me out. I get that Oklahoma State has Oklahoma Bedlam, biggest rivalry outside of Texas, Oklahoma in the Big 12. Here's the thing. Oklahoma off to the SEC, Oklahoma State remaining in the Big 12. There's been no indication that those schools will continue to play each other. There's actually kind of been more indications that they will no longer play each other. So Oklahoma State, Oklahoma will always be their biggest rival, Colorado could come in and be their present rival. I think there's tiers to rivalries. I think, for example, Texas, Oklahoma, tier A, doesn't get any more hated than that. But then you go to like tier B, and it's like, this is our in-state rival. This is a team that we hate them. They hate us. It's just we hate another team more than that. Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. I think Colorado could end up being that. Obviously, they're not in Oklahoma, but I think Colorado, it was a closely contested series, 26-20-1. Colorado leads the all-time series. And I think Oklahoma State is in a weird position because I think had all of these moves happened 2 years ago, Oklahoma State would have been the face of the Big 12, but they're no longer the face of the Big 12. And so I think Colorado comes in as that new blood looking to take over the conference where Oklahoma State's like, no, we've been here. We should be the leader of this conference. And so I think that could be an interesting rivalry. You guys comment below, like you guys always do, who should be Colorado's new rival? You could also go with, I guess, going with the newer Big 12 school, UCF, the battle for the black and gold. They could, I don't know, make a trophy for it. They wear the same colors. You make a rivalry out of that. BYU is another interesting one. I know Colorado has a history against them. Two mountain schools going at it. Not sure how intense of a rivalry, it would be. I know BYU fans always bring the heat, but does Colorado get up for BYU? I don't know. I have to see them. I have to see it when they're conference foes. And realistically, BYU will always have Utah in the Holy War. They're not going to play them in the coming years, so that could be another rivalry. So I think my three biggest, I'll go 4 in order. I would go TCU 1, Oklahoma State 2, BYU, and UCF. Those would be my rivals for Colorado. I think every program needs a big rival in their conference, and it never really felt like Colorado got that in the Pac-12. So maybe, hopefully, they get one in the Big 12. When we come back, we're going to be talking about why Coach Prime is one of the must-watch individuals in college football this season. Welcome back. We're talking about why Coach Prime, Coach Prime Sanders, is one of the most intriguing coaches of the college football season. Sports Illustrated dropped an article today, Pat Ford, ranking, not really ranking. Yeah, they did rank them, actually. There's numbers on them and all. The 10, no, dang, they went all the way to 25. Wow. 25 most interesting coaches in college football this upcoming season. As you can imagine, you don't have to scroll very far for Coach Prime. He came in at number 1, and this is what they said. This is one of the great chemistry experiments in the history of sports. Totally agree. You bring in over 50 transfers, only return 10 scholarship players from last year. That's an experiment at its finest. That's a Frankenstein experiment where it's like, will it work? Don't know. If it doesn't, it's going to be a total disaster. If it does, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, just revolutionized college football. Continuing. Sanders is an unconventional hire with a high wattage personality and Hall of Fame player cachet. His arrival made the Buffaloes exponentially more interesting than they had been in decades. So interesting, in fact, that Deion helped drive their biggest realignment news of the summer. Coach Prime was a tangible factor in the Big 12, adding Colorado. Sanders has worked the biggest roster overhaul in FBS history. They got over 50, so a little wrong there. 41 players coming in. The networks are excited enough to give a team coming off a 1-11 season a pair of big noon kickoff games on Fox and an ESPN primetime window in the first 3 weeks. Hopefully, and then I like this part. Hopefully, multiple summer surgical procedures won't keep Sanders from his duty come September. Coach Prime could yet prove to be all cowboy hat and no Power 5 coaching cattle, but he's got everyone's attention. I mean, I disagree with that last part. I don't think we'll learn. How do I say this? We're not going to learn anything negative about Coach Prime in year 1. It's only going to go up, and this team can only improve. Realistically, if we learn that Coach Prime can't coach the Power 5 level in year 1, that means it's like catastrophic. Like, think Urban Meyer at the Jacksonville Jaguars, where it's just like we're like 7 weeks into the season and he's kicking people or something, like physically kicking people. Like, Coach Prime can only trend up. He's got the charisma. He's got the coaching savvy himself. He knows ball. Obviously, he's one of the best football players ever. He has an amazing staff, a lot of talented guys around him. So we're not going to learn anything negative about him. It's more so it's a time for an improvement. Every step they take is a step towards improvement, and every step towards improvement is better than last year's freaking debacle of the 1-11. So I totally agree that he's going to be one of the most interesting figures in college football. But where you lose me is when you say that we're going to learn if he's got it in year 1. We're not. If we learn that he doesn't got it in year 1, Colorado just may have made the biggest mistake in college football history. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen. But that's how dramatic it would need to be. That's how bad it would need to be for Coach Prime to not have it after year 1. Year 1 is still a rebuilding phase. Just because he brings in all this talent doesn't mean that we need to start expecting championships from him right away. And I think that's an unfair expectation that they put on him. Very excited to see what he does with the program. Very excited to see where the direction of Colorado goes. And I'm excited to see you guys join me along the way. I saw a request for a film breakdown as the season goes on, so I'll make sure to bring someone on who will do that you guys will actually want to, like a former player himself. I think you guys will like to do a little film breakdown sesh with me. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. This has been Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Bohr, but thank you guys for tuning in every single day. Make sure to subscribe. Let's get that count up to 3,000 before the season starts. We got a lot of great guests coming up, so you won't want to miss out. Have a great day.